Things are heating up once again between Venezuela and Guyana as the Bolivarian Republic prepares for a British warship heading for a visit to their South American neighbor. President Nicolas Maduro is not thrilled and has made his feelings known about the ship's visit earlier on today. Stay with us as we unpack what's happening on the ground in Venezuela. We'll look at how deploying troops for military exercises near Guyana might impact the relationship between the two South American neighboring countries. Could Britain's decision to send a ship incite a war when the countries were only recently trying to keep the peace? You are watching The Final Takeaway, where we analyze information and facts and provide opinions on controversial matters of interest across the globe. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep up with new developments on the border dispute. A big shout out to all of our 1,400 plus subscribers, particularly the newcomers. We absolutely value your support. Now, let's get to it. News broke this evening that Venezuela is going to be holding a military exercise at its border near Essequibo, Guyana. In a televised broadcast on Thursday, December 28, 2023, President Nicolas Maduro described Britain's deployment of the ship to Guyana's shores as a threat to his country. The head of state issued several strong statements as follows, quote, "This is an unacceptable threat to any sovereign country in Latin America." Speaking alongside about a dozen military commanders, President Maduro said, quote, "We believe in diplomacy, in dialogue, and in peace, but no one is going to threaten Venezuela." In response, his country is deploying about 6,000 Venezuelan troops to conduct joint operations off the eastern border, which sits near Guyana. Troops will include air and naval forces. In a sweeping statement, Venezuela Foreign Ministry said the country, quote, "reserves all actions within the framework of the Constitution and international law to defend its maritime and territorial integrity." Why is a UK warship going to Guyana anyway? People are asking and they want answers. According to the news out of the United Kingdom, the Navy ship HMS Trent will visit Guyana to conduct joint operations with Guyana's military. The trip is dubbed as British's show of support for Guyana. In clarifying the reason behind HMS Trent's voyage to the country, the UK Ministry of Defence said, quote, "HMS Trent will visit regional ally and Commonwealth partner Guyana later this month as part of a series of engagements in the region during her Atlantic Patrol Task deployment." As you may know, Guyana is a former British colony and a member of the Commonwealth, which is more or less an association of former colonies. Britain remains one of Guyana's close allies as a result of its membership within the Commonwealth. How does the ship's visit impact the relationship between Guyana and Venezuela? The ship's visit may have breached the peace agreement the two nations made only 2 weeks ago. It could infuriate Venezuela and cause it to return to its recent status quo prior to December 14, 2023. The status quo was a plan to invade and seize Essequibo and to make it a Venezuelan state to be named Guayana Essequiba. Of course, a move like this by Maduro can't be the making of a war between the two countries. On December 14, Guyana and Venezuela agreed to avoid the use of force and threats of force as they sought to de-escalate rising tension between them regarding the border dispute over the oil-rich Essequibo territory. Speaking earlier today, Maduro referred to HMS Trent's visit as, quote, practically a military threat from London. He also noted Britain's action amounts to, quote, breaking of the spirit of dialogue, diplomacy, and peace of the agreements. In other words, the country sees the deployment of a UK Navy vessel to Guyana as a breach of the Argyll Peace Agreement established between the two countries. Maduro and Guyana's President Irfan Ali signed the agreement in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on December 14, 2023. The warship visit to Guyana follows a statement by the Under-Secretary of State for the Americas and Caribbean, David Rutley. Rutley said the UK will work to, quote, ensure the territorial integrity of Guyana is upheld. Rutley was paying a visit to Guyana at the time. The visit was part of Britain's initiative to reconnect with its former colony and reassure the country of its support. Here is a glance back at the history of the Venezuela-Guyana border dispute. The Venezuelan boundary dispute with the then British Guyana officially began in 1841. The boundary line separating the two territories had already been surveyed and demarcated by Robert Schomburgk in 1835. Schomburgk's boundary line led to British Guyana acquiring an additional 30,000 square miles of territory, which is currently a part of Essequibo. In 1841, Venezuela claimed its borders extended as far east as the Essequibo River. The claim covers 2/3 of what was then British Guyana's territory. On October 3rd, 1899, an arbitration commission set up to settle the dispute upheld Schomburgk's boundary line of 1835. In other words, British Guyana would continue to have control over the territory which covers Essequibo. Venezuela agreed to the decision initially, but later on changed its mind. It revived the boundary dispute with the British Guyana. This eventually led to the signing of the Geneva Agreement of 1966. That same year, in May of 1966, Guyana gained its independence from British colonial rule and became the Cooperative Republic of Guyana as it now is. On the said day of their independence, Venezuela invaded and occupied a small island in Essequibo called Ancoco. They never left to this day. Fast forward to 2023, Venezuela continues to assert ownership over Essequibo, the oil-rich region east of its border, and has increased its claim. In 2015, when Guyana discovered oil, the Bolivarian Republic approved a referendum earlier this month to annex Essequibo and incorporate it into a newly drawn Venezuelan map. Independent Guyana has always and continues to resist the claims and reassert sovereignty over Essequibo. Well, there you have it. What's next for these two South American nations? We will have to wait and see. We will keep you informed with new videos as this story develops. Remember, the best way to keep up is by subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell icon right after. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video on our playlist on your screen.